Hi, I'm Dave Koch, and I'm having a lot of fun editing, which is kind of a lie because this is going on for like 200 images. And it's taken me 6 days. But the images, I think, are just fantastic. And even more importantly, the client is over the moon with how good these images are. And as I was editing, I realized I was starting to kind of create my own, I don't know, system path for editing these. And I thought it was working really good. I don't think I'm breaking any new ground or anything with this. I think there are plenty of people out there who are smarter or better editors than me that probably could do this even better than this. But this seemed to be a pretty good system, and it worked. It produced really good images, and so I thought I'd share it now. I've been lucky enough the last 3 or 4 summers to work with a couple local pool companies that want super high-end images, and they do super high-end work. And I'll be honest, these are like every time they call, it's a portfolio image. So I'm there. And even though, I get out there at 4 and start shooting maybe at 5, and shoot through 9:30 because it's summer, even though they're long, hot, exhausting days, and they're one right after another, and they kill me. They literally kill me. But I get back and the images just are so good. I can't say no to these. So anyway, I'm going to show you how I'm doing one, and that will be this pool shot, which in and of itself is probably not all that good with this railing going through it, but I've got other shots that take care of that. So this, I thought, was just a good general overview of the pool area, and something that I could show you what my system is and how I do it and how it all comes together. So this is our basic shot. And, there's nothing outstanding here. It has blown out highlights. It has black shadows. It's exactly what you'd expect from the middle exposure of a 5 exposure series. And that's what I shot here. I believe I shot, let me see. Let's see, 60. Okay, I shot ISO 64, F11, 1/15 of a second, and then 1/30th. Yeah, so these are one stop apart. And that's pretty much all I needed for these, 2 up and 2 down. And you'll see by the way I use my exposures why I need that many. So here is our base shot. And what I typically do is I let this go a little blue, which this has. I was thinking about this earlier, that one of the ways I've kind of developed this edit style is for doing twilights. And while this isn't a twilight, it's a sunset, it faces the same problems, and you have to overcome them in much the same way. So this, I just wanted to point out that this is a really good way for you to do your twilights and get very chiaroscuro results that look good. Another thing that's important here to learn is that you're going to see I'm going to use the same exposure more than once, and there's nothing wrong with changing an exposure, changing the edit on that exposure, and using the same image over and over and over again to create exactly what you want. Some of the images in this series were drone shots, and because even with the stability that they have, they move a little bit, and it moves too much for me to use. Or in one of the cases, in one of the scenes from this backyard, the leaves were blowing enough that shot to shot, the client didn't like seeing the leaves out of focus and moving, and so we had to use a single exposure and use that multiple times to bring in the leaves so that they were crisp and clean. So again, you can use the same exposure multiple times in multiple different ways to solve various problems in your image. So anyway, this is our base image. And like I said, I let it go a little blue because that's what I wanted it to do. This is going to essentially, well, obviously be our base image, but it's also going to give us that look into the shadows, and thus the blue is acceptable. As you know, I'm shooting at sunset, so I also want to put in some of that sunset. So I just go here and create a virtual copy, and I made this image, which is the same image, but notice it's slightly yellower. There's the base, and then there's the yellow. It's not overwhelmingly yellow, but it's the exact same exposure, and that's what I want. I want the same exposure, slightly blue, slightly yellow. And combining this is not usable by itself, and in my opinion neither is this, but when you put the two of them together and piece it together, you get something that is usable. I'm not super happy with the sky either, and this is going to be a hard sky to do a sky pull on. So I take this initial blue exposure and I go to the one stop under generally, and I just copy that exposure over, and there's my sky. That's much better. Maybe bring the highlights a little bit more so I get some of that color. And now I'm not going to have to worry too much about this fringe around the trees. That's going to work. I bumped up the yellow a little bit so that it's going to match with my highlight yellows, which is what's up, the light that's up in the trees. And that's really what I want to show here. I also really like the deep shadows that I'm getting here. Don't know if you've noticed it or not, but while I was shooting the stills, I had a videographer there shooting the video, and we kind of got into each other's shots a little bit. It's okay. I can take him out a lot easier than he can take me out. So anyway, that's what I do there. Then I go back to my yellow virtual copy, and I just click on it because that puts all those adjustments I've made into memory. And then I go to the one stop over. Is it the one stop over or the two stops over? Yeah, let's go to the two stops over. So copy, get the measurements in, and then go to the two stops over, hit previous, and then bring that down a little bit. I know that just doesn't look like that's usable at all, but believe it or not, this is a very, very important frame. So now I've got 4 frames. I've got essentially the sky, I've got an underexposed blue, an underexposed yellow, and a way overexposed yellow. So let's highlight all of those and edit in Photoshop as layers. And while that opens up, first thing I do before I do anything, I hit F2, which I have Photoshop actions turning that into align all layers. So now we're all aligned. With the way I shot with the base image, 2 under, 1 under, 1 over, 2 over, this is the order that they come in, and that's essentially the order that I want. All I have to do is take that most highlighted layer and put it on top, and then let's hit F4, F4, and F4 and get blacks on all of those. Now, as long as I stay away from the edges of those trees, I'm going to get nice clean lines and leaves and stuff like that. I'm not going to get anything getting kind of screwy. But just to ensure that, I'm going to go ahead and go here, hit select sky. This is something I just kind of figured out today, and it's really saved me a lot of time, especially when I've got like the roof of the house in the shot, and I want to brighten up the house against the sky, but I don't want to go into the sky and get that kind of glow you get. That just says amateur, doesn't it? So anyway, I've selected sky, and then I just hit select inverse. And I'm just going to leave that selection going so I don't go into my sky at all. So now I'm going to the blue level, and I'm looking for things that are automatically shadow. And that's back here, over in here, back over in here. But I do want to see those a little bit more. So what I do is I get my paintbrush. I paint in white. I'm going to go to a flow of about 20, and I'm just going to start bringing those in. And see, I really like this feel there, and I want to keep that, so I'm going to do this nice and subtle. See, I can see into the shadows now, but they're not, I'm not losing the effect of the shadows. There we go. And then let's bring this tree in. And that is about as good as we're going to get there. So this is what we've done. We've essentially, it's kind of like using layers to dodge and burn, but I'm also using color in this too to differentiate. I can speak English, I promise. My shadow areas from my highlight areas. So there we go. Now let's bring in the highlights. I like to bring in the highlights. Oh, you know what? I have them switched. I'm so bad. So let's move that down to there, move this to there, move this to there. This should have been there. So there we go. That is bad. This is now our blue shadows. There we go. And see, that makes those dark areas even look like shadows, in my opinion. Okay, now we'll bring in the highlights. And I do what I was about to say when I discovered this. I do like to bring in the yellow on top of the 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 stone to give that a little bit more of a yellow look, and maybe a little bit there. And that looks really good. Let's see what it does to the pool. It makes the pool look really nice and pop. And then I like to bring it into the highlights and really accentuate the highlights. I'm not going to bring it in here because, in my opinion, those are right on the verge of burning out, and I don't want to burn those anymore. So I'm not going to bring them there, but I can bring that into all the other highlighted areas. Okay, another thing, you'll see how that opens that up a little bit more. And let's bring that in. Let's get those because I want those to be a little bit more noticed. And then I can put a little along the top of here. And that looks really good. All right, now we go to that ghastly highlight area right there. And there's very little you can use with this, but it really does, where you bring it in, make a giant difference. And you just bring it in really subtly. That's why our flow is so low. Because for this, now, do you see how this tree is now coming alive? It's not that blank, black, dead space that it once was. And we can only do that. Okay, I need to go a little smaller. I'm hitting Control Z because that made the pool lighten up, and I could see that, and that just screams, oh, look, I'm editing this. So I'm being much, and then that had too much on it. So I hit X so I can reverse the pool out of this. And there we go. That looks pretty good. And overall, I think that's about where I want this. One thing I did in the actual edit on this image that I'm not doing here is I did pump up that fire a little bit so it was very noticeable. It was from my stock archives of fires that I brought it in. I'm just too lazy to go do that for you, but essentially that's what I did there. I also brought these down. I thought they were too hot, and I actually took this whole railing out, and I'm not going to bother doing that for you either. I ended up doing a frame that was much more like this, and I felt that the handrail really ruined it, so I took that out. Again, this is commercial. we're selling the pool, we're selling the craftsmanship of the pool, I have no problem taking that rail out at all, especially since we also did do a wide shot like that where you could see it. So no big deal. But anyway, from here, we have to do a lot of cleanup. We have to take that battery out. We have to take Cameron out. We have to take the camera out. I took this out. I brought these down some. I did that after I brought this out so that I could make the pool much bluer. But I think you can just see how much more alive that is than just something like that. Once you add in that yellow and all that, you've got, I think, a very, very fun image. Oh yeah, we'll obviously take out the hummingbird feeder. And even in this, I think we would crop to right in here. Needs straightening. I don't do that till I've done all my combining of layers or anything like that. But essentially from here, you can see where this image is going. And I mean, from here, you can take it anywhere. And that's a much more dynamic and interesting image than that would have been as a single exposure. So anyway, that's kind of how I approach these very high contrast situations like this or at twilight or at night. And I think there's, a lot of stuff you can do to really pop the image just with your choice of layers and your choice of colors in those layers. So I hope you learned something. I hope that helped. I hope you'll like the channel and subscribe. And I do hope your next shoot is your best shoot.